Hello everyone, how you doing today? Get working on this starter CV some more, but a couple other things real quick I wanted to show. One is a reskin or recoloring reskin of the Asteria Destoryer. This one's done up in MCRN or the Martian color scheme, done by Mist Dragon 24. Very cool work on this. I wouldn't have done too much different myself, actually. I was just kind of taking a look at all the how it looks and MCRN, and yeah, I like it. Taking a look at the inside too, it matches pretty well. Um, Actually, yeah, very well. One nice thing about all this too is all the original LCDs and everything in the ship were already kind of looking like MCRN anyway. I pretty much have gone with this orange color for a long time now. Back in the day, I used to use yellow, but now I kind of switched over to orange for some reason. I seem to like that a little bit better. But I was just kind of taking a look at the whole ship here and seeing what it looks like in MCRN scheme. And that's really cool. I gotta say, it's neat seeing like this done to existing creations and stuff like that. And it's like I thought about doing some of that myself. Actually, I kind of did reskin one ship before I actually updated it, and I'll show you that real quick here. And that is the MX5. Find it in the huge long list of stuff. Actually, did I pass it already? Sometimes I forget what I call things. Uh, uh, where is it? No, it must be in over here. Oh, duh. I'm also blind. So yeah, I did something like that to this ship in the past too, and it's amazing how similar they end up looking. But yeah, this one doesn't actually work. The current MX5E was updated with a new flight model, and a lot of work was done to it. But this is an older version. I was kind of messing around doing the same thing with colors just to see what it would look like. And anyway, awesome work on this. I'm going to get this added as a modded version soon. I'll leave a link to this on the video description as well. Um, One last thing before that, sorry, is I've been pretty much putting all my time in the last couple days into this Creole tripod, or which I believe I'm going to call it the Overseer. Um, and it's getting much more complete. In fact, here, let me jump inside. Don't mind the hole in the wall or where the core is sitting right now. I'm going to be doing some work to find a nice home for the core that's nice and safe. So I haven't done that quite yet. But things that have been done since the last update. Obviously, I had this part done, but I basically got in and started finishing off the entire hangar and the farm above the hangar. So you can kind of see what this is looking like at the time. I had a problem where I did a mod to the ship to add a spot for the warp core, and that was actually down in this section over here. I since moved that because it looked dumb. And another author kind of jumped on and kind of gave me a little heads up on where else I could put the warp core, which actually works out quite well. It's out of the way, and so now it's up over here. And it was kind of a thing. Basically, I got all this done. I'm like, oh man, where the heck am I going to put this great big warp core when I didn't really have a nice spot for it? But as it is, this works out great, and I think that that'll be the final resting spot for the warp core. And then it's got the Pentaxa tank right below it too. As in what this ship does with storage and things like that. Obviously, it has 6 mining drills on it too. But it has 6 320K standard storage. Now, I don't have LCDs or the final stuff done to this area yet, so it'll be tweaked out some more yet. So 6 320K standard storage. It has a 48K ammo and another 320K for harvest storage. Up the stairs over here, it has a 36 grow plot farm. So it's not a real big farm, but it does have a farm, and I think that's plenty for most people. Allows you to grow enough food to live, or multiple people to never need to loot POIs for additional food, if you're growing everything right, at least. So yeah, pretty excited about this. I'm kind of liking it. I think it's going to work out. My biggest grievance with this ship is probably the top mounted hangar. It is a little trickier to park some things as opposed to just rolling in like the backside or from the sides, which I typically would do on ships. But this is a very unusual ship. It's not meant as a carrier. It's meant as a POI siege ship. So I'm not that worried about it. And you can dock up to a Creole gas in it, size-wise, but you got to kind of wiggle it in through the door a little bit. So it's a little tricky. The smaller ships work out a little bit better. With light on, did a couple more little mod things. Now I ended up rebuilding this area again because I had it bulked out and I had this big like square thing here holding the warp core before, and that just, I didn't like it. And of course I'm missing some colors and textures and stuff. Imagine that. When I see these things, I just like to hit them, otherwise I might forget them later on. So other than that, yeah, this thing's well on its way right now. What's left is I need to finish up the hangar with little things, get the warp core mounted, and do up the bridge. And then I've got some work to do on the bottom of the feet. Now, the reason why I put so much storage in this thing is it has a huge amount of lift thrust for what it is. On each right and left foot, it has one of the great big lift thrusters and then two of the smaller ones. But then the back also has two more of the really big lift thrusters. So it has a lot of lift power, and I wanted to utilize that some. That's why I added in the storage that it has. And I will test this in gameplay, but I don't believe this will have any issues whatsoever carrying the amount of weight it can hold. It should easily be able to do that, and it might even be able to do that on very high gravity planets, but that will be left for testing. Okay, so back to this. I'm also quite excited about this little guy over here. Starting to like the shape. I've got a couple things that I don't care for too much. I'm still not super satisfied with the rear thrusters on it. I would like to come up with something a little bit better than that. But I'm going to just kind of keep on working on this from kind of the front and back. And I kind of wanted to start getting the bottom part here worked out. So let me turn on some symmetry. Oh, there we go. And to start with, since I lowered down the landing gear, so technically, I'm going to just put a block here for reference. This is the bottom of the ship right here, or basically where the ship will stand once it's landed. That's good to know too, because that allows me to do anything I want with this block row here. Now the main area here actually doesn't come down to that yet. Now one other feature it's going to need is a front ramp. That's something I'm thinking about as well. But for the time being, what I want to do is just keep on kind of working this a little bit. Let's see. So I'm going to angle this down some more for now. And I like to clean up my mess up above here as I'm doing that too, so I know where I can put blocks and not put blocks a little bit easier, I guess. And with the Creole too, I've been kind of going in between, like using wedges, like I typically would do, like this shape here, which would mount up to those just fine. But then there's an alternative that can look kind of neat. I've been trying to get in some curvy action going on. So rather than that wedge, there's also this one, which gives you kind of a neat looking curve. Now, the way I've got this, though, that's not going to work out right here because of the blocks above it don't match that, so I probably won't use it here. Would have Been nice to realize that to start with, but oh well. Um, so what I want to do is I want to get I want this area down to that height there, and I'm going to defy physics and break my pedestal here for now. And I'm thinking a great place for the front door would be, or the front ramp would be right over here. So let me kind of try to leave a little bit of room for that and fill in some of these blocks as well. And yeah, there I don't think I'm going to use the same one. All right. So let me just kind of carve out an area, or kind of build out an area, I should say, where I believe the ramp should go. And let me grab one of them. Okay. Now with the ship this size, I typically use the smallest ramp, but I got to make sure it goes down to the ground. So where I've got that in relation to here, it's gonna be, it won't go all the way down to the ground yet. So do I go down another block row with this area, or do I use a ramp that goes down 2 blocks? With size, I'd rather fill out this area a little more, so I could potentially get a little bit more interior space. But this wedge is getting kind of deep back there, and I don't want to like make it too wedgy. I'll try it this way and see how it turns out. If it doesn't work, you can always change it. That's what I love about this stuff too, because most, you know, a good portion of the time things don't work out. You know, you try something, it's like, that's not really what I wanted to accomplish, and but you can always quickly change it to something else. And if I didn't do that, I would have, I don't know, a lot less ships I was happy with, put it that way. I am worried that this is a little bit too down now, I guess, but I think it can work out. And this is almost like another room below, practically. So here I'm gonna get this prepped up to put in that part over here. So now that ramp would come down and meet up properly with the bottom, the true bottom of the ship, where the landing gear would come down at. Alright, so I think what should take place now is I got to kind of round off the sides here. I want to change my angle. Right now I'm going at it like a 45 here. I want to change that to a 22.5, which pretty easy to do here. So then I'll switch it to this other block set over here. Then I got to figure out how far I want to bring it out. Kind of want to leave it, I don't know, kind of curvy like it is. Like that. I think I'll just leave the sides where they are and not bring those out any further. Now, one thing I was thinking about now is due to getting more turrets on this, which I'd like to do, having a little bit of space issues up here. It's still possible I might try to modify this area to get a turret on each side here, which would put it at 4, but my target goal for this ship was actually 6 turrets. And I'm thinking about trying to get a couple in the bottom area here. To do that, I would need enough flat area to pull that off. So I'm going to try to build this out a little bit somehow, and so I can get a space enough to add some turrets down here. Now I could, if they weren't, well, even if they were retractable, I could technically bring it out to, or have them come as far in as this block row here. I'm not sure yet how I want to handle this. So I'm trying to maintain all these curves and stuff, and the only thing I don't like about retractable turrets, well, a couple things. Obviously, there was some questions about retractable turrets and the comments and whatnot, and obviously a lot of people like them better than the other ones because it's sleeker, and I agree, it is sleeker. You don't see the turrets, so you don't have that. And I was just trying to explain why I don't use them too often is it's a hit points thing. And like for instance, retractable turret at 3450 hit points, but that includes the bottom of it. Now I checked, and the non-retractable turrets at this point in time are the same hit points. Now these retractable turrets increase in hit points a little bit when they are retracted, but then they're also not firing. So basically 3450 hit points with a steel block hull, which the maximum hit points you'll get out of a full block is 500. If you count 9 blocks below that, so you'd be looking at 4,500 more hit points in blocks below it if you did not use a retractable and took up the same amount of space. And that is why I typically don't use them. But it is a cost savings as well to use them, especially on a ship that you want to be inexpensive like this one. So it's kind of where I'm at. It's it can go either way, I guess. And I like the idea of the turrets, you know, coming out. I think it looks cool. They got a pretty good sound for it. I have no real grievances at all with it. My only issue is hit points, and on a ship designed more for combat, I probably would not use retractable turrets like I did with the Nemesis and Asteria Destoryer and things like that. But on a ship like this, it will save some money. So you don't need as many blocks, and it does look slicker, no doubt. So I'm going to try that here and try to slip in a retractable on both sides of this door in this area and see if I can't use blocks to make this feel right or look right in the end. Now on the bottom like that too, there is good sense to have them retractable, and I'll have to figure out the method of. I think I've seen it before. I just haven't yet done it. Basically, when the landing gear come down, the turrets raise back up, so it gets them kind of out of the way. I think that would be a nice feature for this ship. Makes sense, especially since I got turrets like that would typically drag right on the ground. If you're landed. So now other things beyond the 2 additional turrets there, 2 additional turrets that I want to get here. It's also going to need 4 additional lift thrusters. So I've got the 2 up here, and I wanted to get 2 more somewhere in the back of the ship. And that's another reason why I kind of want to redo this some. I don't necessarily like what I've got there, and I also need to get some more of those in place. As in other thrusters on the ship, the only other thing it's going to need is 2 more of these down thrusters, and I've been using the smallest CV thrusters for that, which are pretty light on CPU usage. So it's going to need 2 of those back there and 2 more lift thrusters back there, and then I think all the power or thrust requirements on the ship are done at that point in time. Alright, well, anyway, just keep working this out here. Sorry about babbling. I tend to babble a lot. Trying to figure this stuff out and whatnot, but it's always fun. Now over here, to go with the Creole and to kind of bring in some more potential breakups, I'm thinking about adding some pipey something coming off the back of this thruster. Now this new block is one I do like, and it's kind of like a pipe, or a typical pipe like this, except for it's got a solid side on one side, which is really nice because then you could simulate like it's a pipe, but have a full wall on the other side of it. And I'm going to do that right now because I anticipate this will be interior space on the other side of this. And then you won't have a weird looking hole going to the outside of the ship, at least for a little bit. So what I'm thinking is do a couple of those and then switch into, I don't know, maybe some kind of pipe that curves inward. I'll just run a full block there for now. Maybe I came out too far with it. Maybe I did. I'm gonna pull that back just a little bit. Kind of want this all to tuck in, or at least match this angle here. Now on the bottom, I want to also follow this angle. And I think if I did this, the only thing I don't like is where that pipe meets up currently, but I think I'm going to change that. And then I could get a slant on this side, and it matches that same angle there. Whoops. Now something else while I'm working on this too, it was brought up in the comments I just was looking at this morning, and basically the idea of taking a look at other authors' creations that have been up on the workshop, bringing them in and doing like a video on them, trying to enhance them, or basically, excuse me, treat them like they were my own ships, and try to update what needs to be updated, or do some body mods or tweaks or texture, color changes, whatever comes to mind, to try to make the ship more enhanced. Excuse me, man. And if any of you watching this would like to see something like that done, I would, if you put a link into the YouTube comment section, I can take a look at those, and I'm thinking like, I'll like look through, if anybody posts anything, I'll look through them and try to figure out which one would be the best one to do. I don't want anything too big to look at, but I could start a new series kind of working on other people's stuff. And then I would give it back to the author once it's done, and they can do whatever they want with it. And I would give it back to the author probably via Google Drive. So it would be a zip file that you'd have to copy back in your game directory. I can explain how that's done too if you haven't done it before. It's pretty easy. You just got to know where the file paths are. So that is an option. So if any of you would like to see that done, I think it would be kind of fun myself, because I do kind of like to mod other people's stuff, but I don't want to just go out there and just do it, especially, I want the author to want it done. So there is that. Now, another question that was brought up as well is status of the space carrier. The space carrier hasn't got much work done to it as of late. That I do plan on getting back to soon. My game plan, though, is I want to get the Kriel tripod, or the Kriel Beholder done first, and then start messing around with the space carrier again to get all the other stuff going. Basically, I just felt I had too many open projects, and it was, I almost stressing me out, to be honest. It was just like, oh man, I got so much to work at, I don't even know where to begin. And I kind of want to get caught up, so I kind of have a free slate, more or less, again. Now this particular ship I'm not too worried about because this is a video only build. So it can, it'll get done whenever it gets done. I'm not really in a tight schedule for it. Alright, so that's kind of built out a little bit there. I guess, now the bottom's going to be really easy to do, so I'm not too worried about that. I was trying to get all this other stuff to fit in right. I guess the next thing again is time to address the rear thrusters and the additional lift thrusters. And this still is a little bit tricky. I'm not sure how I want to pull this off necessarily yet. Now, one other option I was thinking about doing and is to bring this entire housing, these side pieces, back a couple more blocks at least, and then to actually mount the rear thrusters into this as well as the additional lift thrusters. So I'm gonna try that, see how it turns out. It would change the dynamics of the body a little bit, but right now what I'm looking at is, due to being a starter CV and I want to maximize space and have hangar space, I've got this big square or this big rectangle back here. I'm trying to hide that even more if I could. Because it looks like it's sticking out just a little too far back here in relation to where these side arm things are. So, and yeah, when you're building too, I would definitely make use of these the N key and copy and paste and all that stuff too, because honestly, sometimes you'll have like a really good design, but it just feels like something's off. And it's amazing if you take like a part that you feel is off and you move it a little bit, and then reattach it later, and it can really change the whole dynamics of the creation pretty quickly too. Alright, so we've got that all selected. Cut and paste, and I'm going to try to just go and move that back too, and just try to take a look at what that would look like. See, what I like about it is it's kind of making this side angular all the way to the back, as opposed to having this square part sticking out. So I think profile wise it's going to make the ship look better, and also function wise it's going to give me a spot to add in thrusters back here, I think, if I can make it work right at least. Oops, what did I hit? Alright, so let's paste this, and I'm going to go a couple blocks forward and copy the other side. I think that's right there. Okay. Yeah, I think it is. Paste that. Remove selection. Turn symmetry back on. Alright, so now I got to reconnect this a little better. So I'm going to get rid of the blocks leading up to that. And we're going to put in some of what was there already, just further back. Okay. Alright, starting to fit the profile a little bit better. Like having those extra turrets on there. I guess the last big thing I really want to figure out is how am I going to get some turrets over here on the sides. This might actually require yet another copy paste, because I don't have physically enough space quite to add a turret with all the angles going on over here. Alright, so back out of there again, and plan this time is I want to take this and grab it from here back. I don't care if I screw up the back part of that at all. I'm going to move this back one block row. Yeah, I'm going to do another cut, I think. So I'm going to go like that with it, paste that, and get the other side done. Oops. All right. Cool. Now, can I fit a turret in here reasonably well? I believe I can fit a non-retractable reasonably well, but a retractable, I think, in this spot isn't going to fit very well at all, but we'll see. I do want to keep that as a cosmetic feature on the side, so I don't want to bring the turret in another block row, or I'll lose that whole look I've been trying to create. So with a retractable, if I were to place that, then it kind of screws with my bevels. So in this case, I'm going to try some non-retractables a minute to see if I can make the blocks around here work where it looks right and it doesn't look like it's like hanging over the edge or something. So if I did something like that with the two different block angles. Ooh, that doesn't match. This angle is not right with that block now. I think what I need is this angle. Like that. That's a weird junction there. See, why I wanted to come all the way up like that is, in fact, so I could take a turret and put it on top and try to not have that hanging over the edge. It still kind of is a little bit. Now, in this case, it would be cool, though, to also have retractable turrets, since all the other ones are retractable. But, how do I pull that off? Gets a little tricky, for sure. I guess what I could try to do is modify my angles over here. I do like how it curves to the secondary angle here, though. Well, maybe I could investigate bringing the turret back in. I didn't want to, but maybe if I did it right, I could put that other part here to make it still look like it swivels a little bit. I'll have to replace these blocks to make that match. It's bigger than I wanted it to be, but I think functionally it would work better. I could go back to a retractable here, put it in at that spot. Maybe I'll cheat over here too to try to make it look a little more separated and add in a couple of these with the flat bottoms on them. And something in the middle, a half block, like that. Yeah, I think that could work out. Now I can not worry about it and keep a much better bevel over on this part of the ship. And keep a retractable turret, which is going to be a little bit cheaper in the overall cost. Not by a lot, but every little bit counts, especially on a starter ship. A weird thing I got going on too is I have two different angles coming into this particular spot. There is a conversion block that deals with it, but I don't know if I like having two different angles there. Almost makes me want to change this this angle on this back part to match what's on the front part. I'm gonna mess with that now. But would this work? That's what I feared it won't work. That's probably why I did it in the first place. Because now I've got that corner that would stick up if I matched it. Okay, never mind. I get why I did it in the first place now. Now on the front angle, do I want to keep that little bit of sticking up there, or do I want to make that fit better? I don't know. Probably the aerodynamic look. Probably. Do I have the right block here? Just get a little screwy sometimes. Sometimes I wonder why I have such a hard time with some, like so many of the blocks I'm so used to, I kind of know how they fit right away. Then I run into some things and I'm like, how in the heck do I rotate that to be the right way I want it to be? And is it the right block to start with? I don't think it is the right block. I'm confusing myself now. Am I just losing my mind, or why did I think this block is the right block? It doesn't appear that it could possibly be the right block. I'm missing something here. Didn't we just do that on the other side on the last video? Somewhere? I was all like, yeah, I don't think there's a block for this. And then, yeah, there's a block for this. But now it appears that there is not a block for this. I think I'm just losing my mind. I think I really am. These cut in way too far. Whatever block I'm looking for has to be at least a minimum of a half block tall. So maybe, and I know that doesn't work. All right, well, maybe I'm just completely off base and no blocks are going to work there. So this is what I do in those situations sometimes. I put in something completely different. When I got no solution, throw a pipe in the middle. That a lot of times will fix it up and keep it looking all right. Now what I don't like here is this little lip. The differences on the front and back. And all this was done so I could fit this in correctly. But I don't like that. I don't like this little jaggy edge out over here. That's kind of weird too. Oh boy. So what if I did something? Man. Well, hold on. Maybe that block will fit here then. Oh yeah, that's it. Okay. Okay, and technically I wouldn't need that there anymore. Okay, so I had to do it on the back side, not the front side. Interesting. Alright. Now it fits. And looks alright. Cool. And sometimes when I say that, you know, these some of these builds just take a very long time to do, I'm not kidding. Even if it's small, it can take a long time to do. It depends how much reworking and how picky I am about everything. And at this point in time, I want to be as picky as I can be, quite frankly. Um, just you know, it's not about how many things you make. It's about the quality of the stuff you do make. So if you can just keep on working something and, you know, and just make it the very best you can, even if it takes a long time to do, I'd rather have just a few items that are just really, really done well, as opposed to a whole bunch of things that are, you know, so-so, or, you know, they're okay, but it's the ones that really stand out that, you know, you can tell you got a lot of time and effort into, and very picky about everything about it. Okay, well, this might work out pretty good for the rear thruster setup too. Um, Overall, I think all these changes are going to help it. Once I get this part worked out, things will speed up again, because the other parts aren't as complicated, and there's a lot of filling in stuff and then texturing and all that fun stuff. But it's just working out the body is the part that's really time consuming sometimes. In this case, it kind of is. And both the MCRN Pioneer and this one, they're both obviously new starter ships that I wanted to support the two other collections that are out there and give them something that neither of them had, which is a starter CV. So there's a lot of purpose to this, but what I wanted to do when building both of these two is totally avoid the look of the Wayfarer or Cosmos being like just a box looking ship. So both of these are trying to do different things to have them not look as boxy. Of course, boxes are probably your best setup with cost versus what they can do, but I don't think too many people, including myself, like necessarily boxy looking ships. Even if they're practical, they're kind of not pretty. Okay, so extending those out a little bit I think is going to be alright. So now let's go with the thruster cone I was thinking about, which is 6 for the rear. I'm going to inset them in a little bit and kind of leave that overlap there. I'm going to try to angle the top and bottom ones in with the different blocks there. And that puts them nice and out of the way too for interior space. So now we've got these thrusters over there. There'll probably be a wall coming down here, and I'll just make sure that you can't get close to that. And then I think you're going to be all right. So as in adding some lift thrust over here too, that also shouldn't be too terribly difficult. Oh, I blew away my landing gear. So what if, oh, I want them as far back as I can put them, but I want them as out of the way as much as I can put them too. This is a little bit getting closer to the inside of the hangar than I wanted at that block row. But I'm thinking maybe if I were to, oh man, I don't know. Could put them here, which is kind of, I guess it works. Just for some reason it feels like I think I'd cosmetically think they would look better further back, but then I'm going to have to bring them in further too. Alright. Let's get some landing gear back on here. I'll keep those out for now. Might give this thing a flight test in just a second. You know, it's far from done. I just want to see generally how it responds. Just do a couple things here a minute. This last part too, I might address this little fringe I got going, or kind of over the edge of the hangar. I don't particularly like that much either, so that's probably going to get addressed. All right, so I'm going to retract some turrets for the time being. CPU wise, we're about where I would expect it to be at. Oh yeah, 2 more down thrusts too. Those are really easy though, so I'm totally not fearing the down thrusters whatsoever. So put one on both sides there. Alright, and we're going to blow away all of this, including the core. Grab another core, and we're going to need, let's see, a generator, and a fuel tank. Let's throw this stuff somewhere inside right now. A couple of those. And just place a core. And, oh, I think I need a pilot seat. Just for the heck of it here, I want to fix my windows. Okay. And we're over on CPU. That's one less thing. I'm going to need to put in tier 2 CPU block. I filled up my inventory again. There are some other suggestions too about like equipping like multiples of like this block or that block or the other thing. I understand where you're coming from, and that's kind of cool because you can set one to a shape and then keep on going back to it quicker. But what I always have this huge problem with is I got too much crap in my inventory, and I'm going between too many blocks at one time. Sometimes different blocks of different materials and other parts and thrusters, and who knows. And typically, I never have space for it, and that's kind of a problem. Like even now, I'm trying to fight so I can get room to put in a CPU block in my inventory. I do wish in creative mode that you had more space, I guess. Seems you have 9 total, and I'm typically always have 3 or sometimes 4, because I have been trying to use the texture and color tool for some things too. So I got 3 or 4 of those slots always used for tools, and then that gives you 6 total slots for everything else equipped at one time. It's such a minor grievance, though. I mean, it's so minor. I'd rather see the devs actually just keep on working on other aspects of the game and not worry about that kind of thing. Alright, trying to figure out how this thing is going to work. Right now it feels alright. Obviously I shouldn't have much strafing thrust at all. Very similar to the Pioneer. Lift thrust is going to be its strongest thing. Down thrust is enough. Forward thrust should be good. The turning thrust, that's something I'm looking at a little bit. If I'm just turning, right now I'm about there. Not sure if that's going to be enough, because this thing's going to be a lot heavier, and it feels like maybe it's a thruster placement problem. And I have a feeling it has to do with this thruster here being so close to the center as opposed to being on a far edge over here. Like for instance, I think the Pioneer, even complete, is a little bit more agile than that. And that would be for that reason. I'm just going to jump in and find out real quick. It actually feels about the same, but I know this is a heavier ship and finished up. So yeah, there is that. Shut that one back off again. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to have to figure out what to do about the side thrust, because that is too close to the center of mass. Center of mass, let's see if it tells me. Is right there. So yeah, this block here is, or that thruster is just only a couple blocks away from the center of mass. So what can I do about that? Start with, I'm going to try to pull it. Now, let me get some symmetry on. And what I'm thinking about doing is trying on this ship to sling something way in back. I think I could get away with that. Let's just say, for instance, since I'm only putting one on the side, it doesn't seem to matter if I have 2. Like if I had a counterbalance one up here, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. It just seems like the only thing that's really important is having one, at least per side, for a vehicle that you don't care about strafing much. But it needs to be on either the far front or the far rear of the ship, I believe. So let's find out if that makes a difference. And let's see, symmetry was on, so yeah, the other side's got that. All right. Turn that off. Doesn't really make any noticeable difference. I think a little bit. I think it's a little bit more maneuverable there. Just out of curiosity, though, something I wanted to see how it reacted is, let's say, rather than using the bigger thruster, we'll say I put this one back for now, but one of these small ones instead. but I'm also going to put a small one in the back. So we're going to have 4 strafing thrusters instead, but really dinky ones. Or should I say turning thrusters. I want to see if that setup actually does any better. It's cheaper on CPU actually. Almost not noticeable. But it actually doesn't feel bad either. So, but you know, how is that going to react when this thing has more weight on it? I don't know yet. But I might try this. It's a little bit different than what I did with the MCRN one. But CPU wise, it's actually cheaper, which this has more guns, by at least one. So that would almost make up in the CPU difference between the weapons on there. Alright, well, that's kind of worked out some. It's almost to a functional ship status. Before it's all done, oh, well, you know what? Oh man, I had these rocket launchers mounted on this thing yet too. So looking at the CPU with the rockets launched, huh? That's kind of cool. How much CPU do I gain if these things were cut? Yeah, that's not going to stay that way either. And 290. So they're pretty cheap actually on CPU. It's going to be interesting to see what this thing can be equipped with at Tier 2 with a shield. Or, well, shield ready, I'll say. It probably won't come stock with a shield since it's a starter, and I don't want to push up the level requirements or the rare resource requirements. But, you know, really, if you know if you get used to the thrusters on what you need and don't try to, like, push it too hard, it seems that you can build more of a ship than you think you could at lower tiers, at least for a CV. Now, I don't know how all this would play out towards an SV. Oh, I'm missing landing gears. But with a CV, it's all right. All right, well, I'll stop there today on this one. I think I rambled on long enough. I think I'll, the next video, I'm going to try to finish up the body and start to skin the body. I don't think it's going to take that much longer to actually finish up the body. This last part doesn't take very long. But yeah, I just wanted to experiment some with the flight model and see if I can, you know, come up with other things. Now, if it's possible too that if this thruster was further forward, I would get more effect possibly from it with turning. But unfortunately right now it's right in the way of this thruster, which goes back to here, and then these thrusters which are over here. So unless I wanted to put it on a top or bottom row, which I don't really have any nice spots for that right now, it seems like it would be problematic to move it. But who knows, maybe something can be reconfigured there a little bit. And then of course I want to get some more accents and flares and spiky things and all kinds of little stuff on the body. But once I get the body kind of done and when I start to skin it, I'll start to look at some of the little detail stuff and try to tweak it out some more and see where it goes from there. All right, well, anyway, y'all have a good day. And on the other part about working on other authors' ships for like video purposes and stuff, if any of you got something you'd like me to take a look at, just post a link to the workshop creation in the YouTube comments, and I will go through and try to pick one. I mean, if there's a bunch of them, I can only like pick one, or maybe have to wait on one for another week or something like that. But all I can say is just something not too big. If it's too big, it's too time consuming. something smaller, something that you're proud of, something that you like, and would like to see, if I were treating it like my own ship, what would I do to it? Either texture-wise, block work, function-wise, anything like that. Um, all right. Well, y'all have a good day. See you later.